Hello to all Toon Bites lovers. Welcome to the world of Ratatouille. This story takes us to the heart of Paris, where a small but ambitious rat named Remy dreams of becoming a top chef. Against all odds, and with the help of a young kitchen worker, Remy proves that anyone can cook, even a rat. Join us as we follow his exciting journey filled with laughter, delicious food, and big dreams. Our movie begins with the rat Remy, who possesses an extremely rare sense of taste and smell, and introduces us to his father, the clan leader. We also meet his brother, Emile, who is easily impressed. Suddenly, Remy smells a strange odor, stops his father from eating, and discovers that it was the smell of rat poison. And because of what happened, his father appointed Remy as a poison detector so that the clan wouldn't eat anything poisoned. All the time, Remy argues with his father, trying to convince him to steal food from the kitchen instead of eating from the trash, but his father refuses and warns him against entering kitchens because humans are very dangerous. Of course, Remy doesn't listen to his father's advice, goes to the human's house, and enters the kitchen where he sees the famous Chef Gusteau and happily eats the clean food. The homeowner wakes up and Remy gets scared and runs away quickly. While walking in the garden, he finds a mushroom and is amazed by it, so he takes a piece of cheese from his brother Emile and gathers some ingredients to cook the mushroom. He climbs to the roof of the house and starts cooking, but the old woman begins shooting at the ceiling, causing the rats that were living there to fall. The mice quickly escape under the door and through the windows, and Remy takes Gusteau's book and runs away from the old woman. The mice board the boats they had hidden for escape, but unfortunately, Remy is left behind. He uses the book to get closer to them, and his father and another mouse try to help him, but the woman shoots at them and separates them. Remy finds himself alone after being swept away by the water, and he feels sad for losing his family. As he flips through Gusteau's book, he starts talking to him, and the imaginary Gusteau advises him to seek his livelihood instead of dwelling on what he has lost. Remy feels excited and comes out of the sewers to find food, but Gusteau appears and reminds him that he is not a thief, but a chef. Remy walks through the walls and reaches the roof of the house, where he is amazed to discover that he is in Paris and near the Gusteau restaurant. Inside the restaurant, we see the cooks working hard under the supervision of Chef Skinner. A young man named Linguini arrives and tells Skinner that he is the son of a friend of his, and that his mother has passed away and left him a letter requesting him to be employed at the restaurant. Skinner refuses, but one of the chefs tells him that they need a cleaner. We return to Remy and Gusteau's imaginary pictures, where they talk about the chefs and each of their roles. Remy watches Linguini as he cleans the floor, but he accidentally spills the soup and changes the recipe. Remy gets anxious about the behavior and feels the urge to warn the chefs. Suddenly, the window moves, and Remy falls into the dishwashing sink, but he survives and escapes from the kitchen, trying to reach an open window. He falls into another pot and feels scared when the pot is placed in the oven. Remy continues to run and jumps on the tables, approaching the window and sees Linguini tasting the soup he made, but its taste shows that it is very bad. Remy doesn't care much, but when he smells the soup and discovers it's bad, he decides to fix the taste. He starts by washing his hands, calming the fire, and adding milk and other ingredients to the soup. After getting ready to leave, he remembers another addition and returns to add more vegetables and spices until he feels the soup has improved. He discovers that Linguini had been watching him all along. When Remy tries to escape, Linguini catches him. Skinner comes angrily to Linguini for changing the soup, and one of the chefs arrives to take the soup and gives it to the waiter, who serves it to one of the customers. Skinner gets angry and tells Linguini that he is fired, but the waiter returns to inform them that the customer is a food critic and liked the soup. Everyone is surprised, and Skinner tastes the soup and likes the flavor, but he continues to scold Linguini and tells him that he is just a janitor and should not be cooking. Colette intervenes and reminds everyone of the restaurant's motto, which is cooking for everyone. Skinner knows that she can't fire Linguini because the journalist might come back to try the soup again. So, Skinner decides to have Linguini under Colette's supervision to learn cooking. Remy takes this opportunity to escape, but Skinner sees him and attacks him along with the other chefs. Linguini manages to catch Remy and puts him in a jar, asking him to take him away to get rid of him, saying that having a rat in the kitchen could lead to the restaurant's closure. Linguini takes the bike and goes to the river to throw Remy into the water. But before he does that, he looks into his eyes and feels hesitant. He retracts his idea and tells Remy that he doesn't know how to cook and won't be able to make the soup by himself, and admits that he needs this job to be able to live. He feels crazy because he's talking to a rat, and he's surprised when he discovers that Remy actually understands him. He asks him if he can really remake the soup, and Remy confirms it with a gesture. Then Linguini decides to take him out of the jar, and as soon as he opens the lid, Remy quickly escapes. Remy stops and returns to Linguini, deciding to help him. They go together to Linguini's house, where Remy is impressed by the house and watches the Eiffel Tower, feeling happy. The next morning, Linguini wakes up and doesn't find Remy at first, so he thinks he stole the food. But he is surprised when he sees Remy preparing breakfast for him, and he is amazed by the taste of the food. Before Remy can eat anything, Linguini takes him to work. In the restaurant, all the chefs are reading the article written by the journalist about how much she liked the soup. Linguini enters the kitchen and hides Remy inside his clothes so no one sees him, and everyone notices his strange walk. Skinner asks Linguini to remake the soup, but Linguini doesn't know what ingredients to put in, while Remy can't reach the required ingredients, so Remy bites Linguini, who runs to the pantry. Linguini discovers that they need to find another way to cook together, but Remy feels hungry, and when Linguini notices that, he gives him a piece of cheese to eat. Skinner enters the pantry, and Linguini quickly hides Remy. Skinner is astonished by his behavior, but he asks him to return to work, and when Linguini comes out of the pantry, Remy is hiding under the hat and controls his movements through his hair. Linguini goes to the bathroom, and there he is astonished when he discovers that Remy is able to control his movements. They both realize the crazy idea. Cooperation will enable them to cook together. They return home, and Linguini covers his eyes, practicing control over movements, cooking, chopping vegetables, and selecting the right ingredients. After a day of training, Remy is able to fully control Linguini's movements. Linguini succeeds in remaking the soup with the help of Remy, who is hiding under the hat, and Skinner is impressed by the taste of the soup. Skinner is considering confirming whether Linguini is Gusteau's son and asks for a strand of his hair to conduct a DNA test. Colette starts teaching Linguini the basics of cooking and maintaining kitchen cleanliness, as well as introducing him to suppliers and training him on knife use and cutting techniques. Remy admires Colette's instructions and thanks Linguini for what he learned from her. One day, the customers request a new dish, but Skinner suggests an old recipe to Gusteau, which includes strange ingredients like kidneys and unusual dishes. Remy sees that the recipe is not suitable, so he intervenes and starts taking new ingredients from the chefs, which surprises everyone. Colette is annoyed by his modifications to the recipe and tries to stop him, but Remy continues to control Linguini and completes the recipe. The waiter comes and takes the dish to serve it to the customers, who are impressed by its taste and ask for more. Remy is happy as he cooks the new dishes, and at the end of the day, the chefs celebrate Linguini's success, except for Skinner, who feels uneasy and notices a rat hiding in Linguini's hat. Linguini steps out of the kitchen and gives Remy food to rest and eat. On his way back, Skinner takes Linguini's hat and is surprised to find no rat inside it, then asks Linguini to come to his office. Remy is happily eating, but suddenly he hears a sound coming from the trash. He takes the knife and goes towards the source of the sound, only to be surprised that the sound is his brother Emil's voice, running towards him and hugging him, telling him that they searched for him a lot. They enter the pantry so Remy can prepare some food for Emil, and he asks him to enjoy its taste. But Emil eats quickly and tells Remy that they need to return to the clan to meet his father. Skinner drinks grape juice to distract him, and asks him if he likes pets like rats, trying to lure him into revealing who taught him how to cook. But Linguini is not focused and seems confused, which angers Skinner, so he asks him to clean the restaurant before leaving. As for Remy, he returns to his father and the Rat Clan, who celebrate his return. But Remy tells his father that he won't be able to live with them and will visit them from time to time. His father gets annoyed by his words, and the two almost start to fight, but Emil stops them. By mistake, Remy reveals to his father that he has become friends with a human. His father asks him to come with him to show him something important and takes him to a rat-catching shop, explaining that getting close to humans leads to harm. And he reminds him that humans are their dominant enemies, so every mouse must protect its clan. But Remy rejects his father's way of thinking, tells him he is looking forward to a better future, then leaves him and departs. Remy returns to the kitchen and is surprised to find that Linguini has cleaned the entire restaurant. Then he falls asleep from exhaustion. As soon as he hears someone coming, Remy hides inside Linguini's hat. Colette enters and is surprised to find Linguini sleeping. She talks to him and asks what happened between them last night, but he doesn't answer, which angers her. Someone is talking to Skinner, telling him that he is crazy and advising him to see a psychiatrist. They remind him that Gusteau's will expire in 3 days, and then the restaurant and all its properties will become his. Then he leaves it and departs. At the end of the day, Linguini rides the motorcycle with Colette, and they go out together, but Remy accidentally falls. He quickly escapes from the humans who are trying to eliminate him and enters the sewers. He arrives at the restaurant and suddenly he finds his brother Emil with a group of rats that want to eat. Remy goes to the kitchen to prepare food for them, but he is surprised when he finds the pantry door locked, so he heads to the chef's office to get the key. There, he discovers Gusteau's will and decides to read it. He is astonished when he sees a picture of Linguini in the will, then reads a letter from Renata and finds a DNA analysis, discovering that Linguini is Gusteau's son and his rightful heir. And when he asks the image of Justo in his imagination about the truth, it tells him that it is just an illusion and knows no more than he does. Skinner enters and sees Remy, who quickly takes the letter and the will and runs away, provoking Skinner's anger. He takes the chef's motorcycle scanner and chases him, causing many accidents during the pursuit. Skinner approaches Remy and almost catches him, but he falls off the ladder. And while Remy is running away, the letter flies out of his hand, so he runs quickly to catch it. Skinner approaches him, so Remy jumps onto a tree, takes the message, and then reaches a boat. Skinner gets angry and jumps into the boat as well, chasing Remy, who jumps from one boat to another. Remy uses the leaves to fly in the air and reach a distant boat, and when Skinner tries to catch up with him, he fails and falls into the water. Skinner returns to the restaurant to find Linguini in the office, and he is surprised when Colette tells him they discovered that Linguini is the true owner of the restaurant. The news spreads in the newspapers, and everyone knows that Linguini is Gusteau's son and the owner of the restaurant. Skinner is fired, and all the products he was selling are burned, and a new house is bought. As for Remy, he feels frustrated because Emile constantly brings him a bunch of rats to eat. One day, during a press interview, the journalists ask Linguini about the secret behind his great talent. Remy expects Linguini to reveal the truth, but he lies and says that Colette is the secret behind his talent. Remy gets angry and makes an annoying sound. Then Colette joins the press interview. The famous critic Anton Ego enters, frightening everyone, especially Linguini, who gets nervous in front of him. Ego says he loves food, and if he doesn't like a dish, he won't swallow it. He tells Linguini that he will return the next night to taste his food, then leaves. Skinner is talking to the health inspector and informs him about the presence of rats in the Gusto restaurant. The inspector replies that he will visit the restaurant as soon as possible. We see Linguini shouting at Remy because he distracted him during the press interview. Then he kicks him out of the kitchen and gives him a cooking break. Skinner watches everything that happens and realizes that the rat was the one cooking, which angers Remy about the situation. Remy returns and finds Emile and his rat friends wanting to eat. So he tells them that he will invite them for dinner after the restaurant closes. He asks Emile to bring his father and the entire clan. When the restaurant closes, Remy, his father, and all the rats enter the food storage and cooperate to steal the stock. The door opens and they all hide when Linguini enters to look for whoever was in the pantry. Remy meets him, apologizes for the misunderstanding, and admits that he wouldn't have reached this stage without his help. Emile has eaten too many grapes, causing a bunch of grapes to fall on Linguini. And when Linguini enters the pantry to find out what's going on, he is surprised to see a large number of rats. So he gets angry and kicks Remy and all the rats out of the restaurant. Remy feels sad about what happened and realizes that his father's words were true, that they are just rats. So he leaves them and departs. Linguini tries to encourage the chefs and prepare them to welcome the critic Anton Ego, but they didn't know what they would cook. Linguini tries to cook any dish he has ever made, then rushes and enters the office. Emile and his father try to stop Remy, but he enters the kitchen where all the chefs are waiting for him. And before they could attack him, Linguini stops them and reveals the truth that it was the rat who had been cooking all the food that people loved. He explains to them that Remy had been hiding under his hat the whole time, which is why Anton Ego visited the restaurant. He asked them to help him take orders from the customers. The chefs are shocked by what they heard and decide to leave the place. Even Colette abandons him and leaves. Linguini feels sad that no one is left to help him, and he leaves Remy and heads to his office. We see Colette crying at the traffic light, and suddenly she sees the book Cooking for Everyone. As for Remy, he feels sad and goes to apologize to his father. But his father is the one who apologizes to him because he was wrong in judging him, and he acknowledges his son's bravery. Then he calls on the clan of rats who all gather to help Remy. The health inspector enters, is shocked by the scene, and tries to escape. Remy's father and a group of rats chase him and climb onto his car to stop him. Remy asks all the rats to sanitize their hands so they don't contaminate the food, and assigns each team to a specific place. Linguini is impressed by the organization of the rats in cooking, and he starts taking orders from the customers and apologizing to them for the delay. In the kitchen, Remy supervises all the rats while cooking, gives each one specific advice, and prepares the dishes they made. Colette enters the kitchen and is shocked when she sees the rats cooking, but Linguini approaches her and thanks her for coming back. Colette is surprised when she learns that Remy wants to serve a meatball stew to Anton Ego. Remy's father arrived with the other rats, and they had tied up the health inspector and locked him in the warehouse. Remy started explaining how to prepare meatball stew to everyone and added the required ingredients. In a little while, he finished preparing the dish. Linguini took the order and went to serve it to Anton. Also, Skinner arrived, who was hiding his identity. As soon as Antoine tasted the food, he remembered when he was a child, and his mother used to make the same dish for him, and he liked its taste very much. He felt pain in his hand, but he continued eating, enjoying the wonderful taste. Skinner got angry and entered the kitchen, so the mice managed to tie him up and throw him next to the health inspector. As for Antoine, he enjoyed the prepared food, but Linguini told him that this food was not made by him, so he left them and went to get Colette. They told him that if he wanted to know who attended this meal, he had to wait until all the customers left. After everyone left, Linguini and Colette came to present to Remy, and they took him to the kitchen where they explained to him the way Remy used to cook. Although Antoine was surprised by this, he thanked them for dinner and left. He wrote in his article that he had an unparalleled meal from an unexpected source, and that the chef who served him this meal impressed him and made him understand the meaning of the famous saying, "Cooking for everyone," by Gusteau. He confirmed in his article that he would visit the restaurant again. Thanks to Antoine's article, Gustave's restaurant returned to 5 stars after it had only received 3. But unfortunately, health authorities closed the restaurant due to the rats in the kitchen. But Linguini and Colette opened a new restaurant, and they gained many customers, including Anton Ego. Of course, Remy was helping Colette with cooking, and he and his clan of rats lived in the attic. This is the end of our movie. See you soon. Bye.